Welcome to the Weather Guru podcast for October 6, 2024. We're currently going to be talking about the tropical storm Milton and its current updates and everything that's heading as it boils its way toward Florida here. Before we get into Milton, please be sure to subscribe to this channel for the latest tropical updates and weather news in the lower 48. I appreciate everyone's support as we continue to grow the Weather Guru channel. Now, back on the other news, we do have Kirk and Leslie. These are non-threatening storms that are going to threaten no land masses in the Lesser Antilles, Caribbean, or in the United States mainland. Leslie may curve around to the east of Bermuda. They may get some heavy swells from that, as well as the east coast of the United States, but that's about it. But back to Milton here. Milton is currently a tropical storm with 50-knot winds or 60-mile-an-hour winds. Pressure dropped down to 991 millibars as of the last 7 a.m. Central Daylight Time update, and is moving east, a weird direction. It's moving east at 5 miles an hour, so barely moving here. Plenty of time to strengthen as it goes over that loop current there coming up in the next day or so in the Gulf of Mexico, the central Gulf of Mexico. Now, it is forecast to be either a Category 3 or a Category 4 storm as it makes its way toward Florida. Landfall and intensity, location and intensity still very uncertain, but we are certain it's going to bring a lot of heavy rain. Like I said, it's going to be another one of those east-loaded storms here because we have a lot of dry air in that frontal boundary to the north of the system on the western side of the system as well. So it's going to be another one of those east-loaded, precipitation-loaded systems again. And as you can see here, the National Hurricane Center is given at least a 40% chance of flooding, flash flooding. And this extends from Gainesville, about Gainesville, Ocala, Lake City, down I-75, back toward Wildwood, Lake County, Orlando, and over toward the I-4 corridor, Orlando, Lakeland, Tampa Bay, and back into the Bay itself, St. Pete up toward Spring Hill, and Weeki Wachee, Crystal River. That area, again, is going to be impacted by this system, almost the I-95 corridor, back toward St. Augustine and Flagler County. But also, Miami is given a heavy flash flood warning, and once again, the Gold Coast, once again, from West Palm Beach, Miami, Boca, into Miami and down toward Homestead is also in that area for at least a 40% chance. Everybody else in yellow is 15% chance, and then Tallahassee westward there's not much chance of seeing a whole bunch of rain out of Milton. Now you can see once again the rainfall totals not as high as what we had with Helene, but because the system is going to be more smaller, it's more compact than, at least for now, it's more compact than Helene. But you can see here in the yellow, you're still talking upwards of 4 to 6 inches of rain, steady rain, possibly even 8 inches in Paco. If we get this heavy bands of rain coming in, that's almost a foot of rain coming in somewhere between Fort Myers and Port Charlotte, Punta Gorda, up to the Tampa Bay area, possibly if this band gets on shore. But right now we have just moderate rain, but still enough to cause heavy because the ground is already saturated from Helene. This is going to be in the water table's high, so it's going to be additional 4 to 6 to 8 inches of rain possible anywhere along this yellow shading here, Orlando, Tampa Bay, Lakeland area up toward Wildwood, Gainesville, and then in this area here, this darker orange, it could be 8 inches of rain possible here. Once again, for Miami corridor, West Palm Beach, Jupiter, Boca, Fort Lauderdale, and then also a little pocket up here, once again in Flagler County, towards St. Augustine, Flagler Beach, Palm Bay, Jacksonville Beach, and those areas right there. So this system is going to provide a lot of rain, flooding as well. And you can see on satellite here, heavy convection is starting around the center. That means that it is intensifying. But you can see that, remember, we had a lot of wind shear coming across. We don't have that. We have this frontal boundary that's hung up here in the dry air that's bringing that cool, refreshing fall air north of the Gulf Coast area. And so that's what we're hoping that will slow down the interaction, slow down the strengthening of Milton. But it's just not certain here. As it's in the Bay of Campeche right now, it's going to continue to track eastward across here and get into the central Gulf of Mexico sometime by later tomorrow here. So you can see the key messages. Milton is forecast to quickly intensify. We're moving eastward to northeast across the Gulf here. Hurricane watches have issued as early as late today for portions of Florida. Storm surge, heavy rain, that's going to be the big impacts from this Milton system here. As you can see here, heavy convection on the GOES 16 satellite here, and it is continuing to rotate here around the center here, heavy bands of this. So this will be a hurricane by sometime tomorrow easily, as winds are already at 60 miles an hour here. So as you can see here, about a hurricane early tomorrow, 1 a.m. It's a hurricane, Category 1 hurricane. It continues on Tuesday afternoon, and it's a major hurricane, Category 3 status here, with winds exceeding 115 miles an hour. And then it will continue to make its way. Right now, the consensus model has the landfall somewhere around that St. Petersburg area, 275 area down toward Bradenton, and then it goes right across the state, similar to what Charlie did. But Charlie was a land point, Hurricane Charlie, back in 2004. Back then it was it made landfall way south in Punta Gorda, Port Charlotte down here, and then came across to Orlando as a Category 1 and all that, and out to Daytona Beach. So this system to be a little bit, making landfall impact a little bit further north here as we continue to see these winds increase. But either way, this is going to be a major system for central Florida as well as southern parts of southern southwestern Florida here. It's going to be major impacts here with that storm surge coming in, because once again, that storm surge is going to be coming in. If I can go back, let me go back to the graphic here for you. The storm surge is going to be to the south and east of that center, guys. You're talking about with a major hurricane coming in. Once again, you're talking anywhere on the order of 10 to 15 feet of storm surge, either south of Tampa Bay or south of Punta Gorda, Port Charlotte, Fort Myers. Wherever it comes in at, someone's going to get that big storm surge once again, and that's going to create a lot of damage. And then you got the heavy winds. Now, the hurricane force winds are going to be confined right now to a small area of the system. Those major hurricane force winds above 120 miles an hour. It may extend anywhere from 20 to 40 to 50 miles out. That's what we have right now that we know of. But, you know, the system genesis right now is just getting started. We just don't know what we're going to be dealing with until after we get to probably late Tuesday into Wednesday, when it starts making its initial approach into the Florida coastline. So that's going to be the concern. Now, this is a compact system, a smaller compact system here, and the hurricane force wind, the tropical storm force winds right now only extend out probably 100 miles from the center. I'm going to check on that for you right now. Okay, so we have tropical storm force winds only extend out about, let me see, this is the right one here. This must be, no, this is actually Kirk. I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong one. Okay, let me go back to Milton. The Milton advisor here, tropical storm force winds only extend out for the system right now about 35 miles from the center. So this is a very compact center system. You know, it's not like Helene, where Helene had 325 miles of tropical storm force winds and, you know, all of that. So we just have to wait and see, once it becomes a hurricane, how far the hurricane force winds extend out from the center of the eye, and how big it gets. How does it grow? Does it get bigger? We have to wait and see, because that's all questions that everybody has, and we won't know that until after Tuesday afternoon, when the system gets ready to get out of the Bay of Campeche and more into the central Gulf of Mexico, more into that loop current, and starts to, of course, rapidly intensify that everybody's been forecasting. So this is what we have with the system. Now, once again, the storm surge products have not been issued. That will be issued later on as it makes its approach, once they pinpoint the location, a better location of when it's going to be making its way into the coastline. But everybody needs to be prepared. If you're in, I would say, if you're in anywhere from Spring Hill, St. Pete, Tampa Bay area, of course, Lakeland, Orlando, down toward Fort Myers, Port Charlotte, Punta Gorda, Naples, Bonita Springs, all those areas, you need to have a plan. And what you need to do is plan for water. So make sure you have power outages, is going to be almost a certainty. So make sure you have flashlights, solar generators, gas generators, if you have one. You know, make sure you have gassed up a full tank. Make sure you have blue tarps. You can get at dollar store or Harbor Freight. Get some blue tarps, get some tape, duct tape, get some things of those nature. Ice, make sure you have some ice, and make sure you have some little bags to put Ziploc sandwich bags to put your most important chargers, portable chargers that you can get from 5 and below store. Get a bunch of those. If you don't want to order on Amazon, you can get them on Amazon too. Those high capacity power banks. Anchor is a good brand, or either, you know, the other brands, the off brands that have, you know, high capacity power banks. Get those, because you're going to need it, because power outages are going to be a major certainty here from Tampa, Orlando, Daytona Beach, Melbourne, St. Augustine, back towards all in the spine here of I-75, down towards the I-275, and down toward the southwestern tip of Florida. Because, like I said, you may not be directly affected by the winds, but anytime you get tropical storm force winds or hurricane force winds, and you get a lot of water coming in, power and trees could fall down, a lot of trees in Florida. So you're going to be seeing a lot of power outages with this system, regardless of where it makes landfall along the western coast of Florida. So prepare now. As you can see, heavy convection starting now. It'll be a hurricane by tomorrow, and it will continue to make its way. And then it's going to emerge out here on Friday, and this is very uncertain. This is talking 4, 5, 6 days out. But if it emerges out here in the Atlantic, there's a chance that it can actually re-strengthen again, and it won't come back and make a second landfall, but the chance that it can re-strengthen and affect possibly Bermuda or some other place out here in the central Atlantic, mid-Atlantic, I should say, later on. But that's too early to tell right now, okay? But we just have to get through the next 72 hours here, 48, 72 hours here, and then we'll have a better timeline on what it will do as far as strengthening and as far as that. So once again, the intensity is and the track is uncertain right now. They will have Hurricane Center and everybody will have a better handle on this Tuesday afternoon once it becomes a major hurricane, as far as where it's going to be heading, how soon it's going to be curving either to the north or to the south, and all of that. Now I'll tell you the best case scenario for this system, if it stays to the east of the track here, meaning that if it hits below Naples, somewhere in the Everglades, and comes across north of Miami, and Fort Lauderdale and Homestead. That's the best track if it hits in the Everglades and goes north right across the tip of the state. That would put Tampa and everybody else out of the most strongest storm surge, and it certainly that would give you guys an offshore breeze, and that would be less storm surge, way less storm surge than if we're talking a north of Tampa hit, um, slightly, even so, not even up here to see the key. Let's say it hits way below here. Let's say it hits down by Spring Hill or something like that. If it comes up in Spring Hill somewhere in the Weeki Wachee Tarpon Springs and makes the landfall, Tampa's going to get the ultimate. Tampa Bay is going to get the ultimate storm surge. You're talking 10 to 12 feet of water inundation, possibly even higher, depending on how strong this thing gets, into the Tampa Bay, and that definitely is going to cause way more flooding on Bayshore Drive and all in South Tampa, typical flooding areas, St. Pete areas, downtown, than what we had with Helene. So that's the worst case scenario. Now, if it hits south here, let's say it comes in the Port Charlotte, Punta Gorda area that like Ian did, then that's going to obviously mean that storm surge is going to be higher, like in Naples, Bonita Springs, Golden Gate, in those areas. And that could be devastating for them. And there'll be less of a wind impact up here in the Tampa Bay area and all that. You will get tropical storm force winds, but the hurricane force winds to stay down here in Naples and the Everglades area. So that would be the best case scenario is if this system, Milton, wherever it's going to become of it, major hurricane, category 3, category 4, category 5, if it stays well to the south and it comes east straight across and goes straight below, makes landfall well below Naples into the Everglades area, let's say Marco Island, it makes landfall into the Everglades, 10,000 Islands, and then it comes across the Miami area. But of course that would be more damaging for Miami area, but at the same time that'll be the best case scenario because it'll push across the state and it won't affect the highly lowly populated areas along the coast like Tampa, St. Pete, Punta Gorda, Port Charlotte, Fort Myers Beach, and all that, and that have been devastated by Ian in the last few years and other storms. So that's what we're looking at right now. I will continue to provide updates for you once we get deeper into Milton's genesis here as a system, once it becomes a major hurricane. Thank you for listening. Please be sure to subscribe to this channel, Weather Guru, and I'll see you on the next episode as we continue to follow Tropical Storm Milton that's going to become Hurricane Milton by Monday afternoon, and then major hurricane by Tuesday afternoon. Thank you for listening. Take care.